The aftermath of the Lagos State local government elections, which took place on July 12, 2025, saw the All Progressives Congress, also known as the APC, sweep all 20 chairmanship seats and 375 out of the 376 councillorship positions. The elections were marked by low voter turnout, with many attributing it to voter apathy and lack of faith in the process. Well, some opposition parties and analysts expressed dissatisfaction with the election outcome, citing predictability and lack of competitiveness. Well, joining me right now to speak on this is Dr. Sam Amadi, the director of the Abuja School of Social and Political Thought. He joins virtually from Abuja. I also have Cynthia Mabalu. She's the director of programs for YAGA. Gentlemen and lady, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you.
Good evening. Dr. Sam, you will permit me to start with the lady in the house. So let me start with you, Cynthia. I mean, the fallout or the outcome of the local government elections we saw in Lagos, are you surprised that a party actually won virtually all of the chairmanship seats?
Well, I'm sure you already know my answer. I'm not surprised. We don't have competition at the local government level, not because we do not have multiple political parties competing, but because the way our local government system has been designed so far and the way the local government elections have been managed and administered so far has gone in such a way that it's almost certain that the ruling party at the state level wins all seats at the local government elections, both the executive and the councillorship offices. And it's quite unfortunate because the constitution basically says a system of democratically elected local government council is guaranteed. But when you have an election that in its actuality are not really democratic, because what makes an election democratic first is the quality of competition, that there is competition, there is equal opportunity for contending parties to contest fairly for the elective offices, that there is a legal framework regulating the system, and that there is some level of transparency to guarantee that the votes of the citizens actually count. So if you think about the whole idea and the whole concept of democratic elections, our local government elections are yet to meet that basic standard of actually being democratic. So I'm not surprised with the outcome. I only wished we had better voter turnout, because I still do believe that if we have better voter turnout, there is a likelihood for parties to win, at least at the councillorship levels. But when you also have lower turnout, it's easier to manipulate when there's lower turnout, and it's also easier for a party controlling the system to secure or clinch the seats if the turnout is not high or if it's not impressive. So I'm not surprised. I only was hoping that this time around there would be some semblance of the democratic competition at the local level, because that system of government, that level of government rather, it's very central to our democratic journey. And if we cannot achieve democratic governance at the local level, then we're just playing around in achieving democracy at the national level. Because as it is, local government elections are yet to meet integrity tests. Local government elections are still controlled or managed or won almost all the time by the ruling party at the state level. There is hardly any states where there's local government election where the ruling party at the state level is not winning all the seats. Think of any states controlled by APGAP, controlled by PDP, controlled by APC. You almost have a given. And so people were even surprised that PDP won one of the councillorship seat at an LTDA level, because there was already an expectation. Perhaps that is also why voters don't even bother to go out. Maybe they already believe that the outcome is already determined. So why waste time to go out? But honestly, things cannot continue this way if we really want to achieve a democracy that works for us.
All right. Thank you so much, Cynthia. Let me bring the conversation to you, Dr. Amadi. Dr. Amadi, I would like you to also speak on what you consider the process, that we saw over the weekend at the Lagos State local government elections. We are beginning to see reactions from opposition parties, for instance. Permit me to read, just an excerpt of a press release, by some of these opposition parties. The caption or the headline of that press release says, "Utter condemnation of Lysek's orchestrated electoral fraud and brazen bias in Lagos LGA elections." And it goes on to say, on behalf of Lagosians opposition party in Lagos State chairmanship and councillorship candidates and millions of Lagosians who place their trust in us, we rise today not just to protest, but in profound outrage and disgust the systemic state-sponsored rape of democracy perpetrated by the Lagos State Independent Electoral Commission under its leadership. Let me stop there. Opposition parties in Lagos have expressed, many of them have expressed utter dismay at the outcome. Just yesterday on the program, we even had someone from one of them saying that the party was not even on the ballot, right? So, from your perspective, sir, why are we, when it comes to particularly this type of election, the local government level, there seems to be gaps. Why do we have this recurrently?
Well, thank you for having me. I think first, building on what Cynthia said, of course, elections in states have become graveyard of democracy. But again, Lagos, let's start with Lagos. Lagos describes itself as center of excellence. I would say that Lagos has become center of aggravation. Everything wrong about Nigeria gets aggravated in Lagos. In the 2023 electoral cycle, we saw very systematic, structured, and clearly daylight, forceful exclusion of people for voting, repression. That's never done before, open, and it passed. We've seen various levels of basically daylight violation of clear electoral rules, not manipulation of rules or changing figures. So this time we are deliberately, we see some of the voters' cards and just two parties, the information that they just say vote for PDP or APC. The other parties are not there. I think that in today's age, we expect, of course, the Lagos Election Commission knows better, has a capacity to print. If any state that can print and be regular and methodical and efficient for an election, is Lagos State, with resources, with very competent persons. They can pick up and put in the system. I think it's deliberate, daylight, loss of integrity and open, and they don't care about it. So it's dangerous. And again, speaking largely to what this means, I think I just finished writing a paper this evening, and I said that it's ironic that as politicians invest more in election, not in the integrity of the process, but in election as legitimacy for their being in power, voters invest less because there's something to go there for. So the only people who will go through the violence, through the hardship, if you look at the time sheet of voting in Nigeria, maybe 3 to 5 hours be spent to really vote. So the question is, why would voters care about those if outcomes don't really matter? And so you see growing decline in turnout, even as politicians spend more and commit more to elections. So it's an inverse proposition. As politicians are investing more in election as mere shambolic legitimation of their stay in power, voters are investing less because it's incredible. There's zero integrity in our elections anymore, whether at the national level or the state level now. And Lagos as center of aggravation shows us our picture, gives us a broader mirror of where we are in terms of our failures and in terms of the fact that democracy may have failed in Nigeria. Like I was thinking through the week, I said, what's the correct state? The correct statement, maybe democracy never took off properly, but at this point, it's safe to say it's dead. And what we're doing, preparing for 2027, is to see if we can revive and rebuild democracy. Look, there's nothing democratic about the system now. If you look at competitive elections, they're not competitive whether the national. Look at Edo that the courts have finally affirmed. And we saw blatant, forget who voted but blatant formal failures of rules. You have to write the the serial numbers or the prescribed text. He won't do that. The law says the Supreme Court confirms that you can't have a result sheet more votes than those. So basically, the nation has to admit that democracy has failed in Nigeria. It doesn't mean that military has come, but democracy has built around some minimum conditions of integrity, electoral integrity. It's no longer a functional proportion in this country. How do we restart it? How do we reinvent democracy? How do we revive democracy? Maybe someone will argue that perhaps it never even took off properly in 1999 with all the PDP riggings. But what is different now is that there's now an open violation of rules, open, just truncation of process, and nobody cares. In the past, you would make an effort to publish all the names of the voters, allow them to vote, and maybe in a dark room, you alter figures. But today, we just, we just remove you, we just exclude you, we just decide that your vote doesn't matter, we don't want to vote, and then we declare results. And of course, the courts will affirm them, and the people who are elected to get to power. So it's lamentable, but that's the truth. And if we call it by its name, that we no longer seem to have democracy or electoral democracy for that matter.
All right, Dr. Amadi, thank you so much for all of that insight. But right now, we'll go on a quick break. Once we return, we'll switch gears to talk about the legacy of Nigeria's former president, that's Muhammadu Buhari, who has been laid to rest today. Stay with us, we'll be right back. For staying with us. As of course reactions continue to pour in following the passing of Nigeria's former President Muhammadu Buhari, tributes remain divided, with supporters praising his integrity and critics pointing to unresolved economic and security challenges. Now, while he has now been laid to rest at his Daura residence in Katsina State, questions linger for the future of the CPC faction within the ruling APC amongst the plethora of issues. Well, I still have my guests with me. I have Dr. Sam Amadi, is the director of the Abuja School of Social and Political Thought, and I also have Cynthia Bamalu, she's the director of programs, Yaga Africa. Thank you for staying with me. Let me come to you, Cynthia. What would you consider the biggest achievement or legacy of former President Muhammadu Buhari?
Wow, that's a tough question, because when you say the biggest achievement and legacy, I'm looking at it because for me, legacy or an achievement is something that any citizen you meet can actually point at or point to and say, yes, I remember this man, I remember this president for this. And I actually am struggling to pick one. And
so you really can't pinpoint to any?
Well, so perhaps what I would say is because he signed the Not Too Young to Run bill into law, I would say, well, under his administration, the age reduction bill was signed and amended the constitution for more young people to contest elections. He also signed the Electoral Act in 2022, which also had innovative provisions in it. But I think his assumption into office in 2015 had come with, actually for those who supported him, the young people who supported him, there was a lot of expectation, but I do believe that it was an unrealized potential for me, because in the 8 years within which he was the president of the country, if there was one thing that remained very lacking was the fact that within his administration, Nigeria struggled a lot with national unity, but more importantly, a lot of young people felt disconnected with his government, with his governing style, and they did not feel that they were at the center, at the heart of his development policy, especially because of the support he enjoyed in 2015 leading to the 2019 elections. And so I do believe that for me, what I can say is there are lessons rather than legacy. I would say there are lessons for me, and it's the opportunity that leaders have to create change, to effect change, to impact positively on the lives of the people. That opportunity they have within the term that they are in office. A lot of times they do not understand the importance of that opportunity and they lose it. And so if you think about what I remember the president for, I think, like I said, my phrase would always be unrealized potential. There was an opportunity to rebuild trust, to deal with the issues of corruption, insecurity, unemployment, and poverty. But all of these expectations were not met. In fact, we had an issue when it came with the monetary policy. We had an issue when it came with responding to the needs of young people.
And I know that there are a plethora of issues, but because we are really managing time, Cynthia, I sincerely apologize. Let me throw the same question to Dr. Amadi too. Picking from Cynthia's words, she said that maybe lessons. So I'm going to ask you, are there takeaways, maybe for future presidents, or even our current president, from the time former President Muhammadu Buhari was alive and in office?
Yes, let me say that legacy could be quantitative or qualitative. So not too young to run, quantitative, didn't quite change the landscape. And Niger Bridge, the petroleum industry law, and several others. So basically, it has some quantitative milestones and achievements. But in terms of transformation, I think that's a different question. Now, back to lesson. The first lesson, I think Tinubu Buhari tells us, and I've said before that he's a provincial person. Provincial is not a bad thing. That means a man who had a local orientation, good virtues of agrarian virtues, love his cow, love his community, love his people around him, spoke only to Hausa BBC before he became president and VOA. Provincialism. But again, when he now got pushed to the widening landscape of a nation state of multiplicity and multifacetedness, then he was overstretched and he became incoherent. So lesson number one, every moment deserves a particular leader. There's a time in the military rule, maybe a time to knock heads, people in prison and so on. Then you need a man who can do that. But a time you need much more skilled people, tolerant people, who can persuade, build consensus, mobilize and motivate what they call redefining leadership. They don't need somebody. So the Nigerian problem is that because Jonathan will say, oh, we don't want Jonathan. So I think Tinubu and the Lagos media created this fantasy called Buhari. If you read Shoyinka's "You Must Set Out at Dawn," pages 22, 22 to 33, he painted a picture of a hypocritical person. And interestingly, the same Shoyinka and all these other tribes, members of this tribe in terms of social tribe, not ethnic tribe, signed on because it was politics. So we created the Buhari and we created a failure. He's a good guy. He's perhaps one of the most disciplined Nigerian, perhaps one of the most Puritan, perhaps people say very funny man. He likes to read cartoon, has a very good sense of humor, and of course a localized sense of virtue. But then we created a narrative and pushed them out behind. He said, look, he told the president, only God can fix Nigeria. He wasn't prepared to fix the country. So I think that 2015 conspiracy and successful campaign is what unraveled Buhari today that we are accusing him. This guy would have died and gone as a hero I would never had. He had very high reputation because people saw him as disciplined. But again, we made the wrong choice, put the wrong people at the wrong context of history and the wrong offices. So, and Nigerians don't know how to elect. And Rufai said, when he was cross-examined in the television, he said, look, I'm guilty of recommending bad people should listen to me when I make nominations for. The question is, should we now listen to them?
Dr. Amadi, we really need to go. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your time on the program. We really are racing for time. But it's a privilege having you once again. Thank you, Dr. Sam Amadi, Director, the Abuja School of Social and Political Thought, and also Cynthia Bamalu, a Director of Programs here at Africa. Gentleman and lady, once again, thank you for your time. We, of course, deeply appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.